Sandra Dunson Franks as Harriet Ross Tubman. Mrs. Franks gives a convincing performance. She conveys a great deal of history in her dramatic stories and creates a winning character whose strange eloquence rings in the ears long after the last word is spoken. Mrs. Franks embodies the very spirit of Harriet Tubman. Her work is so complete and thorough that it's no longer the actor on stage, but a 90-year-old Harriet Tubman live and in person, in hats a tribute to Harriet Tubman. Her performances spanned over 4 decades. Mrs. Franks is a shrewd storyteller who makes Mrs. Tubman's ordeals sound like triumphs and spins her tales into inspiration, says the New York Times.
That something just was not right. I could tell that them black folks was just making life easier for everybody else, and I know that the law did not mean for it to be like that. I knowed I was not gonna be there too much longer, working and thirsting under that hot blazing sun. Nah, sir. See, I could tell that black skin meant lifting a heavy load in that master's fields. Working every day when you're sick and hurting. I know that one day I was going to be free like them birds that fly them treetops each day. That like a mighty wind that just can't stop blowing, I was going to be free too. 'Cause the Lord's eye was on the sparrow, and I knowed he watched over me.
Hats, a tribute to Harriet Tubman, has graced the stage of the Smithsonian Institute, Baird Auditorium. Woody King Jr.'s New Federal Theater in New York City. Ms. Franks also toured for 9 years with Living Arts for Students, based in Knoxville, Tennessee, just to name a few. Sandra Dunson Franks attended Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, where she would earn a bachelor's degree in English with a minor in theater. She continued her education at Atlanta University in the master's program, where her thesis statement was on the life and times of Harriet Tubman. It was at the home of Harriet Tubman that her research would begin.
Harriet Ross Tubman, born a slave in Dorchester County, Maryland, became the 19th century's most outstanding female heroine because of her courage and everlasting trust in God. A runaway slave, she became a famous underground...
While visiting the Harriet Tubman home, Mrs. Franks was allowed to live, eat, and sleep as Harriet Tubman. She was guided in her research by the then director, Mr. Guthrie Carter.
A legend in her lifetime. She became buried
Mrs. Lula Williams,
and the woman
Bishop Milton Williams, and Bishop Herbert Bell Shaw.
Let's take a train ride to freedom and let Miss Moses be our guide on a railroad that old master can't find. She talked of owning some land and living free from a man. It's time to leave this God-forsaken place behind.
Much of Mrs. Franks' research also included visiting plantations throughout the South, including the Oak Valley Plantation in Louisiana. These are plantations that were similar to where Harriet Tubman worked, as well as lived.
It won't be long, you're gonna look for us and we'll be
On March 10th, 1913, Harriet Tubman was eulogized in Auburn, New York, by the great Booker T. Washington. To end a chapter in her research, Mrs. Franks stood at the foot of her very grave. From there, the rest is history. Hats, a tribute to Harriet Tubman, was born. Mrs. Sandra Dunstan Franks would begin a tour that would span 40 years, donning the stages in every state of the Union and around the world.
But let her take us on a ride to that the promised land.
Children and adults and young adults all came out to enjoy Hats, a tribute to Harriet Tubman, as only could be performed by Sandra Dunstan Franks. We invite you to visit our website. Order your CD today or book the show. It's your turn to experience the history.
She said,